What was your biggest no going back now moment? This one is quite literally a not going back moment. As a Boy Scout at summer camp, we would always take large group hikes on the last day of camp. This particular camp in West Texas was located in the middle of a deep canyon and cut through with a small stream. The day before our hike day it rained a bit, but not too much to make us worry. It was drizzling in the morning when we got up, but we were Boy Scouts, so that obviously didn't stop us. So our long hike had us cross the small stream up the canyon maybe 10 to 15 times, no problem, and everything went great. After a while we get to a medium-sized pond that we all decided to go swimming in. That was fun and we all had a blast. We get out and dressed and we keep going farther up a hill to continue our hike. We get to the top and we hear this wonderfully ominous rushing noise. We look over a ledge and see that the water in the stream was moving a bit faster than we remembered. A friend and I volunteer to go back and see what's happened. A flash flood had ripped through the area we had just left moments before. The water in the pond was at least 7 feet higher than it was 5 minutes before, and it was covered in foam and rapidly overflowing. We decided as a group to test our luck and go back to see if we could get out, but the last stream crossing had turned into a very fast-moving river crossing. Needless to say, we were fucked. We literally couldn't go back, and we had to wait a long time to get help and get to the now almost flooded camp. When I was younger, letting my older cousin talk me into a canoe ride down a flooded river. We'd planned it days in advance, but there was a lot of heavy rain in the area and the normally calm river was near flood level and quite rough. I really didn't want to do it, but I didn't want to let him down either, so I still went. I knew as soon as we saw the river this was a terrible idea. The whole thing was a shit show and I honestly thought we were going to die. We had no control and at one point we got stuck nose down in a large rock, knowing if we tipped out we were drowning. We somehow made it out into the shore where we walked back with the canoe. Stepping off that sandbar I could barely reach to swim out to the girl caught in a riptide, and not knowing how a riptide worked. It took what felt like hours, but, spoiler alert, we made it. Too early in the season for lifeguards. I remember calling out to people walking their dogs on the beach, but we were so far out they didn't even look towards us. Refusing to serve a customer for the first time ever. It may seem small, but it felt like a big win. I work at a cafe and a woman very rudely asked me for a 16 ounces hot coffee. We don't offer that, we just make pour-overs. Yeah, we're an expensive bougie shop, and I tried to kindly explain to her why, but told her I could make her 2 coffees if she likes as long as I stick with the recipe. She demanded I change the recipe. I said no, I can't. She spotted a 16 ounces cup behind me and asked what's that? Things were already very tense and I grabbed the cup and explained this is 16 ounces cup, but it's only for cold brew. It looks similar to the hot cups, but this one is compostable, made from sugarcane and will melt if hot liquid is poured into it. She grabbed it out of my hand and demanded I made her 2 coffees and pour them into the cup. I said I can't do that, the cup will melt. She told me she would do it herself, which also wouldn't work because she would have 24 ounces of coffee for a 16 ounces cup. At this point other customers were in there giving me the "oh shit, she's crazy, I'm sorry you're dealing with this" sympathetic eye. I knew if she poured the coffee into that cup and burned herself we would have a bigger issue. I said I can't do that, I'm sorry. She demanded I make it again, saying you will make me 2 coffees. She spoke to me so horribly and condescendingly. There was never a please, she spoke to me like a servant, and she was creating a safety hazard. I took a long pause and looked her right in the eye and said, I'm sorry, I can't let you speak to me that way and I won't serve you. She was shocked. She was appalled. The cafe was silent. My co-worker came out from the back and a customer held her card out to her and said she won't help me so you will. I'll have 2 coffees. And my co-worker looked at her and said, I don't know what's happening because I just got here, but I trust my co-worker, so I'm sorry but I won't serve you. It was so cool. Yes, the woman yelled at us, berated us, mocked my voice, claimed I called her abusive, screamed that we were wrong, demanded our names and corporate's contact. I stayed so calm the entire time. Once she left, multiple regulars and customers offered to back me up if I needed support explaining the situation to my manager. I've worked at my company for years and am consistent and trusted. I called my boss immediately and explained the situation. They received an angry voicemail within minutes and stood by me and my co-worker, sent a generic "sorry about your experience" email but not offering her any compensation. It was seriously one of the best feelings. I stood my ground when in the past I have crumbled or allowed myself to be treated poorly in these types of situations. I asked for the respect I deserve as a human being and my co-workers and bosses supported me. Try it out sometime, it rules. While motorcycling through Vietnam, it was getting late and I was running low on fuel. Too low to turn back to the previous town. If that wasn't bad enough, my bike rack broke. Luckily, a kind man and his daughter stopped to help. He knew no English outside of "I can fix." So I followed him. I wore my bags and held the rest in my lap. Entering the town, my jaw dropped. It was complete calamity. The streets were filled with people carrying 2x4s, rocks and bottles. Literally hundreds of people. It was like a war zone, with people smashing scooters and cars on fire, people yelling and fighting. A few individuals were running for their lives with mobs and tail. I can still vividly see one man's face as he looked over his shoulder in dread. There were too many people to drive through, so I had to slow down to a crawl. All I kept thinking was, please don't notice me. Please don't rob me and smash my face in. Please know I'm with this kind man and his daughter. The moment lengthened as a few of the town folk started to notice me. I was scared shitless but produced a warm smile. The smile wasn't returned. The kind man looked back and those who were taking interest in me noticed. Can't help but think it helped. We finally breached the throng of people and pulled down an alleyway to his place. I still didn't feel safe, but I needed gas and my rack fixed. I tried to ask the man why all these people were fighting one another. He just smiled and made the drink gesture. It was during Tet, or the Vietnamese New Year. He fixed my rack, gave me some gas and wouldn't take any money as payment. However, like Christmas, the kids receive money, so I gave his daughter a fat wad of cash. With his blessing. About 45 minutes later I arrived safely at my hostel in Minvona. Salvia. Never again. Only lasts 5 minutes, but holy shit does it feel like an eternity. It's like your entire reality gets smashed into thousands of pieces and you're desperately trying to piece it back together, or getting thrust into the space between the multiverses and you're trying to figure out which one you belong in again. Having your consciousness merged with a red Solo cup on the dresser is the kind of experience a man needs no more than one of in his life. Getting in the ambulance after suffering a grand mal seizure from alcohol withdrawals. When I finally said enough is enough and decided I needed to quit drinking before it killed me, I thought I could detox on my own as I was terrified of hospitals. I was wrong. I spent a week detoxing in the ICU, and now, almost a full year later, I'm still very happily sober and I'm completely thriving. Hiking backcountry snowboarding with a guy. Got stuck in a flat area and needed to hike out in deep powder. It was getting dark and kept coming out of thick trees to 50-foot-plus cliff areas. It was getting darker and we didn't have much light left and finally came out to another cliff area with about a 10-foot cliff, 20 feet of landing and then a second 10-foot cliff area that had a narrow landing to an open glade. It was either go for it and don't fall and get hurt or start making a snow tunnel and get ready to sleep on the mountain for the night at East Vale Chutes in Colorado. We both made it through the cliff jumps safely but it was sketchy. When we got to town we both had a couple tall whiskeys and the first bar we got to and I was still shaking. Could have possibly died if we had to stay on the mountain overnight or got seriously hurt, and then died, making the jumps to get to an area we could get down as it was getting dark but it was either jump or start making a snow shelter. We were definitely not prepared with backcountry gear and got lost in the area even though we had both ridden it a few times with some experienced people who had taken us down before. Scary and something I will never forget. When my abusive husband was doing his weekly ritual of interrogating me and accusing me of some made-up infidelity and goes, "Well, what's the deal here? Are we just done? Before I could stop myself I was like, yeah, we're done. He didn't know, until that moment, that I had already spoken to a divorce lawyer and the police and had all my ducks in a row to take the fuck off. But I was planning on actually meeting with the lawyer before I told him, so then it was 2 weeks of awful Jekyll and Hyde bullshit before I could leave. I have to say, even though I was like oh shit, it did feel so fucking good to say it though. Fuck that guy. A bit dark, but when I took a bunch of pills in a suicide attempt. It was around 10 p.m. on a Tuesday night and I had just gotten into an argument with my mom. I laid down in my bed and thought about my life, considered asking my mom to take me to the hospital, but decided against it. I thought, Vale, this is it. I'm dying. Then I fell asleep. I took more than the lethal dose of Seroquel XR but somehow woke up in the morning, slow, but perfectly fine. I consider it a glitch in the Matrix, but one I am grateful for. This was in August 2019, and I'm doing a lot better now. Still struggling, but not suicidal. Moving to Europe. For my husband, it was moving home. For me, nope. But I have a rare disease and American insurance was about to actually kill me, kept denying medications. I was getting worse and worse, and he managed to get an amazing job in a great city to try to save my life. So 5 years ago, we're 2 hours into our flight there, the flight where we're moving forever, and I was too sick to visit first or anything, so I've never seen it before, and I'm realizing, I'm not actually well enough to fly back to the US. Who knows when I'll see anything or anyone from again, and this is it, and suddenly, I'm just a bit panicking gone. Like, what is plane? Where's air? The flight attendant was offering me a cup of tea at that almost exact moment and I just stared at my husband, who is a former Marine and has done all of these insane things, and he looked at me and goes, "Take the tea." I felt like an idiot version of Neo in the Matrix. If you take the tea, the flight keeps going and you see how far this rabbit hole goes. If you don't take the tea, this poor flight attendant stands here looking like a fucking idiot for even longer. So anyway, I took the tea from the dude, and then I guess it worked because who can panic while trying to make tea? Turns out it was truly the point of no return. It's been 5 years. The insurance is much better than the US. They've kept me alive when I definitely would have died, but I'm too sick to actually leave. I couldn't even go home for my grandmother's funeral. So, shit, there really was no going back. Unless something kicks in, new treatments etc., I doubt I'll ever see home again.
Don't forget to like and subscribe for more daily videos, and join the Spooky Squad.